Soviet tanks during the early stages of World War II were equipped with these strange, even amusing devices on their turrets directly above the gun. What were these devices and how did they work? Were they used by the Red Army in actual combat? Let's find out. We'll use Soviet documents and technical diagrams as our sources. In the 1930s, the Soviet Union developed and tested a large number of strange, even fantastical, designs and devices for Red Army tanks. For example, night vision devices for drivers, deployable floating pontoons, and ejectable hooks for cutting barbed wire. And some, like these eccentric devices for jumping out trenches at speed, seemed downright crazy. Most of these devices, of course, weren't adopted, but some ideas proved successful and remained in use even after World War II. The devices we're discussing here were actually used in practice and even provided the basis for new ideas later. These devices were part of the so-called combat light system, designed to illuminate targets during night combat. Of course, the idea seems old even for that period of history. However, similar technical devices for tanks and other armored vehicles were primarily designed for routine road illumination and for providing light signals when moving in a convoy at night. Armored vehicles were also often equipped with searchlights, which the driver could rotate to inspect objects and targets, all in addition to the standard headlights. In the case of the combat light headlights, as the Russians themselves called these devices, they were originally designed specifically for target illumination during fire, as they were mounted on the tank's rotating turret, and the range of these unusual headlights were intended to be greater than that of standard headlights. The idea for such a specialized lighting system was proposed to Soviet designers in 1936. The idea was approved, and the first such system was installed on the BT-7 light tank. A little later, combat light headlights appeared on the T-35 and T-28 tanks. Typically, two combat light headlights were installed above the gun barrel, each consisting of a spherical iron housing and a special front glass. This lens-shaped glass had less scattering of light, and reflective and guiding plates were installed inside the headlight in front of the lamp. The lamps were the same as those used in spotlights and were quite powerful. The entire design of this headlight concentrated the beams of light onto a single point. After installation on the tank, the beam was aligned with the gun sight. During testing, the illumination range was approximately 2 kilometers or 1.2 miles, which was more than sufficient since Soviet tanks of the period typically engaged targets at range of 500 to 800 meters or 1,640 to 2,625 feet. The entire system was powered by 12 volts, meaning it was supplied by the tank's standard battery. The light was activated by a toggle switch located at the gunner's station. There were also options for installing combat headlights on either side of the tank gun, and sometimes only one such headlight was installed, as on this early version of the T-34 tank. During nighttime testing, it was discovered that the light from these special headlights seriously hindered the enemy's vision and aiming, and this effect was amplified when the lights were turned on several tanks participating in a single attack. Furthermore, the light could also assist infantry accompanying the tanks in aiming and firing. However, this entire system had a serious drawback. If the light did not shine directly on the enemy, the tank became highly visible, allowing the enemy to aim and fire simply at the bright light source in pitch darkness. To make it more difficult for the enemy to aim, Soviet tank crews were ordered to turn on their lights only briefly while firing at the enemy. These lights could also be disabled by shrapnel and bullets. Despite these shortcomings, the Red Army Command believed that while tank crews risked becoming easy targets, they gained the ability to fire at night. In 1939, the production and installation of combat lights ceased. Apparently, the Russians reconsidered their position on these issues, but those tanks that already had them were not detached. There is very little information about the use of battle light headlights in actual combat. In theory, these systems should have been used frequently during the Soviet-Finnish War in 1939, as the Red Army used its early tank types at the time. However, no documentation survives. There are a few mentions of incidents during the fighting between the USSR and Germany, but all of this information comes from interviews with local residents. One night in June 1941, near the town of Magerov, T-28 tanks of the 8th Tank Division launched a counterattack. According to interviewees, the tanks advanced in several lines directly toward German positions with their bright turret headlights on. Both sides suffered heavy losses in the attack, and almost all of the T-28 tanks were destroyed and burned, so the tank crews themselves could not confirm this. After World War II, combat light headlights were once again installed on tanks, but these were now multifunctional systems, most often infrared emitters. While the conventional light function was still present, it was secondary. Examples include the L2 system on the T-54B tanks, as well as the ANVSS-1 system on the M48 Patton tanks. During World War II, many unusual modifications of familiar tank types were used. For example, the Soviet T-34-57 medium tank with its long gun, which could destroy even heavy tanks even at the beginning of World War II. There is a separate video about this tank, the link is on the screen or below this video. See you soon!